Hey, Next Levelers, Bob Gibbons here. We're here for another great show, the Next Level Show, in fact. And our guest today is Lindsey Harrison. She is a seasoned veteran of the entrepreneurial journey. She's done a lot of different things. We're going to talk about everything you can imagine, from pet sitting to marketing to who knows what. She doesn't follow rules, I'll tell you that. She doesn't read instructions. So she's a typical entrepreneur, right?
Yep.
Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad that I made it today.
I am too. So, well, I'm excited. I didn't know a whole lot about you, honestly, but my wife found some information on your LinkedIn profile, and I was actually more excited after reading that than before. Not that I wasn't excited, but as I read all this, I was like, no way. So you were in commercial real estate with a UK firm.
I was.
But you were in the US?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that?
So it was a company called OfficeBroker.com as an e-broker.
Yep.
And so we worked with executive suites. So they are phone lines, internet connection, furniture, everything's already there for you. And it's kind of a plug and play opportunity for either small businesses or companies that are looking to be a little bit more agile. So as of right now, you guys are seeing the WeWork movement, right? It's kind of like that, but just those properties weren't as hip. WeWork wasn't around during that time.
I'm very familiar with that because there's an awful lot of what I'm not exactly sure what the right term is, but what I would call aggregators. Yeah. People that are basically using pay-per-click, AdWords to try and get somebody off the internet, and then they direct them to the right place, usually an executive suite. Yep. And then there's a commission for them.
And so that was the company that I worked for.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they started in the UK, and I was their fourth employee coming here. So yeah, we were in a teeny tiny executive suite, and that's kind of where I learned a lot about sales, a lot about working in business, and that was really kind of my only real job, if you like.
Was that like the first job out of college or something?
I actually didn't go to school.
You never went to school?
No.
Your whole life?
Well, I went to high school.
Okay.
And then after high school, I stayed because of a boy. I know.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, stupid boys.
They're such a problem.
So yeah, I stayed for a boy. I had full rides all over the United States for soccer, which was fun. Called the coach about 4 days before I was supposed to be there and said, I don't think I'm going to come.
Where were you scheduled to go?
He wasn't very happy about that. Up in Arkansas. So.
Wow.
Yeah. So I stayed for a boy, and after that, I actually started bartending, which, it was kind of I loved it. I actually thought it was really fun, and I met the owners of the commercial real estate firm. They became regulars there, and one day we exchanged email addresses, and I sent him an email and said, hey, if you guys ever need help, let me know. And the owner of the company emailed me back right away and said, we've been waiting for you to reach out.
Wow.
You remind us of our top salesperson in the UK, and you're hired. And so the next week I started there, and it was a whirlwind after that. So I got to travel all over the world because of them. So again, their main office was in the UK, so I was over there quite a bit and grew with that company. My main territories were Manhattan, Chicago, and DC, and so got to travel to those locations and worked really closely with all of the executive suite providers there, and then ended up becoming their trainer here in the United States, and then ran their United States office once we got quite large.
What do you think the best thing is after working with them? What was the thing you learned the most from that assignment, from that gig?
How to treat people. Yeah, so the owners of the company, fantastic people. Cultural differences between the UK and the United States. And I learned how to treat people by the way that they didn't treat people.
So they were a little more cold, or not quite as...
Entrepreneurs, both of them entrepreneurs, and I think that the work ethic it's just a little different in the UK than it is here. Work is I would say a lot more important to people there. We like to live life here, and so yeah, I mean, I learned how to, if I was ever going to have my own companies, these are the things that I wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
Moving forward. So
Interesting. So, so things with a boy that you stayed for didn't last?
no,
They
no.
never do.
Huh? Are you shocked?
Not at all. Hopeful in some ways.
Yeah. So no, no boy, that didn't happen. So, yeah.
So, how long did you stay with that company?
About 4 years.
And then what'd you do after that?
Well, so during that, I was always an entrepreneur. So I started with a pet sitting company when I was about 12. My parents told me that I needed to get a job.
Good for them.
Yeah. And so the options that you have at 12 are limited, one of them being pet sitting and one of them being babysitting. And the baby thing didn't work out very well for me. Wasn't really interested in
A little
that.
easier to take care of animals,
Yeah,
right?
they didn't really talk back to me, So I started the pet sitting company. And it started, clearly just in my neighborhood. And it grew.
And you were doing that working for somebody else?
Well,
or?
so I was 12 at this time, right?
Right.
So I was quite young. I was still going to school. I was doing the high school thing, or middle school at that point, I guess, and walking around the neighborhood and taking care of pets. And so while I was in the commercial real estate firm, I had ended up selling the pet sitting company. We ended up getting to about 1,200 clients at that point.
So you obviously had a lot of other people working with you.
I did.
Employees?
So once I got to about 16, you can drive at that point. So then my radius became a lot larger. And then, I'd have people in the neighborhoods help me out with pet sitting.
And was this just like you go over for throughout the day? Or
Yeah.
was this even if somebody was traveling and you'd take care of them for a week or two at a time?
Yep. So do it for a week or two at a time. And we never stayed over. So we didn't offer that side of it.
Okay.
But we'd go and we'd walk the pets and whatnot. So.
Yeah, 12, that would be scary to stay
Yeah.
over at somebody else's house.
Yeah, parents really didn't know what it is that they were getting themselves into, especially when they told me to get a job and I built a pet sitting empire.
How did you know what to do at such a young age?
I don't know. I remember telling my dad, and this is horrible, but I don't even think I was a teenager yet. I remember the exact moment. We were sitting in the car and we were driving, we were almost home, and I turned and I looked at him and I said, Dad, if people would take me seriously, I would be an adult at this point. But clearly I can't get a loan, I can't drive, I can't do these different types of things. And I don't know how he felt about that, probably a little disheartened, but yeah.
So you were already realizing there was age discrimination.
Yes.
Even at that.
Yes, I was very upset about it.
You sound so much like my daughter. It's scary. She
But
did
yeah.
the pet sitting and all that kind of thing too.
Yeah.
She liked the pet sitting better than the babysitting as well.
Well, maybe we're kindred spirits.
But she didn't build it into that empire. So how did you, whenever you had a client, how did you know how to price that service?
I just price it less than anyone else.
So there was not really a
No.
formula.
No.
And so whenever you had somebody else doing the pet sitting for you instead of you doing that,
Yep.
how did you know how to split that money with that person?
Have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's a personality type of test, right? And on the Enneagram, I am an 8. And what that means is I make decisions through my gut. So I work with my gut and I work through things with thinking. Emotions are my hindrance. I don't really do too much of that. So whenever something comes to me, initially it's a gut reaction and then I think through it. So when you ask me, it was not like some formula that I was trying to figure out. It was like, oh, that sounds good. Yeah, okay, I can still make some money off of that. Let's do that. And that's still kind of how I run my business.
So if somebody was going to pay you $20 to take care of their pet,
Sure.
and you were going to outsource that to some other kid,
Sure.
you just said, hey, we'll split it 50-50, we'll split it 70-30, whatever.
Yeah.
And you just, was it the same for everybody?
No.
So it's just however
Well, we had
you...
to negotiate.
Your poor parents. Yeah, you probably negotiated everything, didn't you?
Yes, of course.
Again, so much like my daughter. My daughter actually negotiates contracts now for a giant international company.
This is
And
perfect.
I'm like, she was made for this job because she would not only negotiate when she bought something, she would also negotiate when she returned it.
Yes.
If she didn't keep it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I just bought a lake house. Actually, we got accepted the offer yesterday. And I'm not a realtor, but clearly I negotiate quite a bit for a living. And So we're texting back and forth or calling back and forth. I'm like, well, what do you think about this? Well, maybe we should push some buttons here. Well, what do you think? And she's like, Lindsay, just calm down with it. I go, I know. This is your job. I get it. But this is how I would do it.
Well, there's an art to negotiation.
Yeah.
And, I had a prospective client one time who said, hey, I'm a much better negotiator than you are. And I was like, well, this is my first meeting with this guy. He doesn't know anything about me. But he had a commercial collections company.
Oh.
That's some hardcore negotiation
That's
right
aggressive.
there.
Yep.
So I responded and said, you're probably right. You probably are a better negotiator than I am. But how do you know when you've got a good deal?
Yeah.
If, because he wasn't in my industry,
Sure.
he didn't really understand. So I said, so fine, why don't we do this? You be the face in the negotiation and actually do the physical negotiation. I'll be in the background providing you the information to let you know when you have a good deal or not.
Perfect. Yeah.
Give you all the market data.
Yep.
So anyway, never got that assignment, however. So whenever you go to sell this business,
Sure.
again, how did you have any clue what the value was? And who did you sell it to?
So that one, I sold it to another local pet sitting company. And I wasn't into evaluations of company. I never did that
no
sort
experience.
of thing. So it was, okay, what do you want to buy it for? Let's negotiate that. Sounds good. Let's go.
And how old were you at that time?
I had to been about 18 at that point.
Okay, so right in college, in high school, or right after high school?
Yeah. Yeah. 18, 19 time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you made some decent money on that, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I did okay. I mean, it's a pet sitting company.
And that's when you went to work for the UK real estate firm.
Yep. So I did that. And then while I was with that, I had a snow cone stand.
A snow cone stand. You know what? We got to stop for our first break. What a great spot. Snow cones right after pet sitting. All right. We'll be right back after this. All right. We are back and we're talking to Lindsey Harrison. And by the way, she's now with the It Crowd. I can't believe I hadn't even mentioned that before. You can find her online at itcrowdmarketing.com. So just before the break, you have sold a pet sitting business
Yep.
as an 18 or 19-year-old,
Yep.
and you're now getting into other things, and you buy a snow cone
Yeah.
shack,
Mhm.
whatever. What do you call that? A snow cone
Snow cone stand.
kiosk
Yeah.
stand? Okay.
Yeah. So I hate snow cones. Like, don't like them at all. So why I thought that this was going to be a good idea, I don't know. Again, the gut thing. I had read somewhere that snow cones made a lot of money. I mean, their profit margin is massive. So
I would think.
Now I'm getting a little bit better into the whole business thing. I'm talking about profit margin as opposed to, let's sell.
Yeah, it's my gut.
So yeah, started a snow cone stand. And while that was also happening, have you guys heard of, Redbox machines,
Sure.
right? So you know those. So I decided I needed those too. But you can't buy Redbox machines. You can buy kind of the knockoffs. And I decided to put those in apartment complexes. So it was a win-win for everyone, right? So I got to put it in there for free because the apartment complexes wanted that amenity. And then I got payment from the apartments or the residents that were there. So my schedule consisted of me waking up early in the morning every Tuesday or Wednesday because that's when the new videos came out from Walmart. So I'd go in like right in the very beginning. I'd get all of the new videos. I'd drive around to all of the different kiosks that I had, stock all of those. Then I would do commercial real estate. So I'd go to that job. And at that point I was, I don't think I was managing yet. But so I would do that. And then afterwards I would go to the snow cone stand. So it was a long day. And I learned quite a few things from that. One, I will never work with the city again. Not doing a business with that. And two, tech is an interesting thing, right? So I had these kiosks, and if they don't work, then you don't make any money. And then you have to go service those things, right?
Right.
So that was an interesting thing to learn too. And then I ended up selling both of those.
So how many of those kiosks did you have for the video rental?
A lot of them. Yeah. And I actually ended up selling them back because the guy that sold them to me, he wanted to build a business and couldn't ever really get the business side of it. And so I built the business up and then ended up selling them back to him.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the snow cone?
Oh, this is the greatest story. I had a kid that came to me at the end of one summer and said, I want to work for you. So he worked for me for a year. And then after that, he saved his money and we did a deal and he started his business from the snow cone stand.
So he bought your snow cone
Yeah.
stand out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Although I guess in a way you say you didn't like snow cones. That's kind of a good thing though, because then you weren't always eating all the inventory.
I was not eating the inventory at all.
See, I worked at a haagen-dazs ice cream store once in
Oh.
San Francisco.
That's a problem. I would have eaten those.
Well, except that the owner was really smart. He said, eat all you want. Even if you're not on duty, if you're on a date on a Saturday night, bring her in.
Come on in.
Free ice cream.
Yep.
And everybody that would work there for the first couple of weeks would just eat all the ice cream they could handle, and then they would never touch it again.
That's genius.
You would never want it again.
Yeah.
And which actually did not quite fit me because I still wanted it because I didn't overindulge early, so I always wanted it. And I still like haagen-dazs ice cream.
I
But
love it.
anyway, I thought that was pretty smart for most people, though. So again, back to sort of lessons learned.
Sure.
What was the lesson learned in the snow cones and in the video rental business?
Snow cones never to work with the city.
Now,
Not gonna do it.
what does that? What do you
No.
mean by that?
I love our cities for so many reasons. Working with them and getting permits and that side of it is the most painful process.
So you're talking about the health department?
Oh my gosh. Shoot me now. I mean, not even the health department, but, and granted, it was a snow cone stand, so it was kind of out of the norm of what it is that they usually do, right? But I don't think that any department talks to each other, and I don't think that any of them actually know what the rules are. So you would talk to somebody, and you would do the rules, and then they would approve it, but then somebody else wouldn't approve it in a different department, but they wouldn't speak to each other of why it was approved or not approved, and so you were just going around in circles. So that was a lesson learned of that one. I wasn't going to have a business where I was working with the city again.
And did you not have any of those issues when it came to the video rental kiosks?
No. That was just private transactions because I was in private property.
So on the snow cone, you were leasing the location from the city or something?
No. So I had the location, and you were allowed to have it in a specific location for 6 months. So I think our season was 6 months long. And then you had to get rid of that kiosk type of thing, right? So you had to move it somewhere. Well, during that time, you have to get your electricity done every single time. Well, it's not a real address for the city, right? So the electricity side of things is a disaster. And then health code people come out, and which is fine, but yet again, we're not a true like restaurant establishment, so we can't have the same things that restaurants have.
Right.
And while this was okay in this particular city that I was, there were multiple of snow cone stands in this city, they still just didn't have the right or the protocol of what it is that was supposed to happen with them. And so you got the runaround all the time.
So it sounds like a lot of the issues were related to the fact that it was a temporary location. It wasn't a permanent, long-term thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And but you never, it sounds like, did you have an employee in this? You had to have an employee on the snow cone stand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're already dealing with employees and you're still a teenager basically.
Yep.
And then on the video rental, did you have employees stocking for you? Or
I did not. That was
all
me.
That yourself?
Yeah, that was me in the mornings.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the greatest thing. So if I didn't have to have employees, then that worked for me too. I liked that lesson.
So very, very industrious. I mean, to be that age and willing to spend that amount of time doing all that kind of stuff is pretty impressive.
Well, my mom, when I was little, she'd always look at me and she'd go, well, what else are you going to do? You're young. Work. So that's what I did. I worked. I liked it. I was making money.
So you sell the snow cone stand. You sell the video rental thing.
Yep.
You're working for the UK company.
Sure.
And do you sell those other two because your UK company is you're now getting into management, you're having to travel a lot? Why do you sell?
No, it's just opportunities that came up, right? So the kid that showed up at my front door saying, I want to work for you, and then I want to buy it, so sold that. The guy, again, that with the kiosks for the red box machines, he came to me and said, I've seen what it is that you're doing, and now I'm looking to buy other companies. Would you be willing to sell? And so I did.
So whenever you're working for the UK company, what happens that you decide it's time to leave them?
I had been doing it at that point in my life, 4 years was a long time. So I had been doing it for a while, and I was making enough money kind of on the side. I mean, I didn't make any money anywhere. So I was making enough money, at least at that point, to take the leap and start doing things by myself.
So what do you decide to do at that point?
So we've heard of Groupon, right? I loved the concept of Groupon. And this was 12 years ago. So this was before Groupon is what it is today.
Sure.
But loved Groupon. I thought it was the greatest thing. And I had always wanted to own a Groupon type of website, but I wasn't a coder. So I didn't know how to do that. So I was actually in an apartment and I was selling my washer and dryer. And the guy that came to buy it was a coder. So we started talking and we negotiated. I said, I feel like this is some sort of sign. I need, this is something that I've always wanted to do. Would you be interested in doing this with me? And he said, yes. And so I started a deal a day website just for this DFW area. That grew to about 25,000 subscribers. So I got to learn a lot about the B2C market as well as the B2B market, right? Because I'm trying to get businesses to do deals, and then I'm trying to sell that to. And then I learned a lot about e-commerce that way too, and coding. So I kind of dug my heels into all of that and wanted to learn all of that. And so that grew. And at that point, I had a broker out of New York contact me and say that there was another group that was looking to acquire smaller deal-a-day websites, and here was their offer.
So was your coder the guy that bought your washer and dryer, or did he buy the washer and dryer?
He bought the washer and dryer.
So he bought it. So was he your partner, or did he just work for you as an employee?
He just worked for me.
So you own this thing. You don't know coding, so you hire a coder. Mm-hmm. He's working for you, and you build this deal-a-day website. What kind of products or services were you selling on that?
We did all kinds of things. So we did clothing stores. We did like spas. We did restaurants. Yeah, just kind of anything that a consumer would want.
So how did you find, I don't even know what I'm exactly trying to ask. How do you start this thing? So you create a site, big deal. You can have a site, but how do people find it? How do you get the match? Because you need a critical mass on both sides of that. You need a critical mass of consumers to be buying those things. You need a critical mass of the businesses that are providing their services and products on that. So how do you get enough of a critical mass on both sides to where your site becomes viable?
Sure. So the way that we did it was, the way that I did it, I'd go to the businesses and say, this is what it is that I'm looking to do, would love to offer you a deal. And then we would ask for their customer list. And so that customer list then became part of our customer list too. So it grew quite quickly.
Why would they give you their customer list?
Well, because they were looking to, at that point, email marketing wasn't massive. So if you don't have an email marketing platform, we're going to be able to help you with that. So we'd actually even set up the email platform for them and then break off their list. So then they could do that later on.
In a way, it sounds like it's almost a conflict for them, because these are already the clients and the email list they have, and yet they're handing that off to you
and then doing a deal.
And then how do they know that you're not going to have one of their competitors being marketed to that same
they
list?
They don't. But at the same point, right? Like they can go online somewhere else, or they can go to another clothing store, they can go to another restaurant, and if you aren't continuously marketing to your current customer base, then this is a way to do that.
Have you had a successful career selling to businesses? Maybe tired of having your income limited by arbitrary compensation plans that penalize you for selling more? If so, you should consider tenant representation, a specialty within commercial real estate. At Riata Commercial Realty, Inc., we represent companies and nonprofits that occupy office buildings and warehouses. There is no limit on income, and the more you produce, the higher percentage you keep. If selling houses at night and on weekends sounds good to you, don't call us. But if you want to work business hours, have unlimited income, and leverage the relationships you already have? We want to talk to you. Please visit us at texastenantrep.com. That's Texas, Texas, tenant, Tenant, rep.com.
We're back talking to Lindsey Harrison. She is the founder of The It Crowd, and you can find them on the web at itcrowdmarketing.com. But right now we're still talking about the deal-a-day business that she started that ended up having 25,000 subscribers that she ultimately sold. So we were talking about how do you get this critical mass on both sides of this platform, and how do you get these retailers comfortable? So it sounds like you're saying that there just wasn't a lot of email marketing going on at this point, and so the retailers were just looking for any opportunity to get their deal out there.
Yep.
And I assume they're doing this just because they think that, like Groupon, if I get somebody in on this item, they're going to start coming and working with me and buying stuff from me in the future.
Correct. Yep. And so as we got larger, now there's this large email list, and they're tapping into that. So that's clearly a win for them. But yeah, in the beginning it was, hey, I know this person of this person. Let's go talk to them and see if they want to help us out and start this. And it worked out really well. Now, the first few of them, we gave pretty big discounts to, right? So we'd give them a lot bigger of a percentage of the sale.
Give the retailer.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the very beginning, we weren't making any money. And mind you, I say we for everything,
Yeah.
just so you know. But yeah, so there was no money that was being made until we got to a point where it's, okay, we've got quite a few emails now, and we have some sort of substance to be able to sell. So in the beginning, it's very much of a, we're going to do this email campaign for you. We're going to give you a lot bigger of a percentage, and this is another way to tap into some of your clients, as well as get a check upfront cash for, well, not cash, but upfront for your sales.
So whenever you go to a retailer, let's just say you go to some day spa,
Sure.
so they've got massages and all kinds of other facials and services. What percentage discount do they have to discount their promo, their item, their deal of the day for you to be willing to take it? Did it vary for everybody, or was it always sort of like
varied.
a 50%?
Yeah, it varied. We liked it to be 50%, but there are some locations that just can't do that, right? So at that point, we would look at their profit margin and say, okay, well, what makes sense? And so we would even get to the point where it's, okay, well, even if it's at a 0, you're not making any money off of it. These are the benefits of doing it. But we'd never allow them to lose money.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I would think that the answer would have been, hey, this is a marketing expense. And yeah, you're going to discount it by 50%, and then we're going to keep 25% of that, or half of that.
Yep.
So ultimately, you're really getting 25% of what your ultimate
100%,
list price is, which is sort of the formula that I've heard for Groupon.
Yep.
But you're going to get all these people in here that have never been there before, so consider it a marketing expense.
We didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
Nope. We didn't allow them to lose money.
So how can they discount something that much, 50%, and not lose money?
Oh, the markups and things are unbelievable. Clothing stores, spas, I mean, all of it, right? Restaurants. I mean, the markup is unreal.
So you could take that fee
Yeah.
and they could discount it that much, and they would still at least break even
Yeah.
and not lose money.
Exactly.
Interesting. Because I have clients that have talked about using a Groupon type thing, and what a disaster it was.
Yeah.
I've had clients that have said, I will never, ever do that again.
Yeah, and I think that if you don't, and I haven't used a Groupon in a long time for a business side of things, if you don't do it the right way, nowadays it is not something that you use to get people to make money. You're not making money off of Groupon in the initial part of it. But if you have a great marketing plan outside of Groupon to continue to touch those people, then you win in the end. But it's not like it used to be.
So whenever you built this deal of the day and you had that 25,000 subscriber list,
Sure.
your retail clients, they didn't get access to that 25,000. I mean, you wouldn't give that to them. That
No.
all was proprietary to
Correct.
you.
Yep.
Okay. So you could sell one Mexican restaurant and the next one down the street and the next one down the street,
Yep.
and they were all fine with that. They
Yep.
didn't have any problems with it.
Nope.
Interesting. That It's a fascinating business to me, but it doesn't seem like the feedback I've heard from the retail side is positive enough to see now. But when you did it was so early.
Exactly. So it's a huge difference. So I did it when Groupon wasn't the Groupon they are today.
Yeah. So it was a timing thing.
Yep. So I did it then, and we did it in a very niche market, right? So we did it just in DFW, or we were really kind of just in the uptown area. And so it was kind of your community Groupon as opposed to this big national thing.
When there was a lot of different ones that were being created at the same time.
Yep.
There was one in Plano. I don't remember the name of it now, but I think it started with a W. It was real big. And anyway, but it seems like the only one I hear about now is Groupon.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably others still, but that's the only one I'm aware of at the moment.
Yeah.
So again, why did you decide to sell that?
Honestly, I had a broker that called me.
So it's just timing again,
Yep.
opportunity that presented itself. It wasn't like you were trying to sell it.
Nope.
And again, the price, was this your gut thing again?
Well, this one was kind of interesting because he called me, and he was a broker, so there was no really negotiating with the actual person that was buying it. I didn't even know who was buying it until at the very end. So this was their offer, and at that point, I kind of saw the way that the market was going, and said, okay, if I'm going to get any money out of it, it's going to be now, or it's going to go bust.
So you didn't think it was going to be sustainable
No.
if you didn't sell it now?
Yep.
So get whatever you can out of it. Okay.
Yep.
And what were the factors? Was it just that you saw so much other competition coming on?
Yeah, and the models were changing too. So there was tons of competition. There was, again, we were just kind of in the uptown area, and so there's only so many businesses that are there. So I would have to really start expanding, which I didn't know if I was interested. I did it. I grew my Groupon, if you like.
Yeah.
I got that itch out.
And was this, as you grew this, did you have other employees in this company by that time? Or
I did not.
It was still just you?
Just me.
Wow.
Yep.
That seems like an awful lot of work to do on your own. Was it that you were using outside contracted labor or?
Yeah, so the only kind of person that was part of it was I had somebody that would help with the business relationship. So he knew a lot of people that were in the area, so he would help me with that. And then I had the guy that helped with coding. But those were the two people and they were kind of come and go, hit and miss. And so, yeah.
That's fascinating because the assumption is that you have to have such a critical mass of people, again, back to my critical mass statement that
Sure.
I keep abusing. But, not so.
No, just me.
Interesting. So you sell that.
Yeah.
And then?
So that was a Deal a Day website. Oh, and then, so I had a girlfriend of mine at the time. She was really big into fashion. And she kind of had like a PR business kind of on the side. And she told me about a clothing store that was for sale. And my initial reaction was, no, I'm not interested in doing a clothing store. I'm not, I wasn't a big buyer of clothes. I'd go to TJ Maxx or Marshalls or whatever else, and I'd have the same uniform every day, jeans and a t-shirt. And that was me, right? So like buying a clothing store was not something of interest at all. And she said, no, don't worry. I'll do all the buying. You do all the business. Okay. So I bought a clothing store. I bought a clothing store in Uptown. A year, maybe 2 years into it, she was asked to not be part of the business anymore.
Wow, there's a lot more than.
Yep. We'll just keep it at that. So she was forcefully asked not to be there anymore. Then built a second location in Fort Worth and then started an online store. And so that's where I learned a ton about B2C. I did a lot with B2B. So I did a lot of marketing around you have a like audience as mine. So let's partner on specific things. We did massive events. So at that point, I had owned it for a few years and we had a 10-year anniversary. And I had every business on every block, like 10 block radius, come and set up tents and set up, all kinds of stuff. And we had this massive block party. And all of their clients came to my store and bought things. So I learned a lot about that. I learned a lot about B2C. I learned a lot about managing people at that point because I can't do it by myself there.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about having a business that doesn't revolve around you. And so that was my lesson from there, of not allowing my business to be the Lindsay business. So when I was in Dallas, Dallas ran really, really well. When I was in Fort Worth ran really, really well. But customers would come into Dallas and go, "Is Lindsay here?" And I wasn't there, and they'd walk out.
Oh, my.
And so I became the business, and
Yeah.
that was never going to work.
Yeah, you can't build it
Yep.
beyond yourself if
Yep.
you do that.
Yeah. So I learned that lesson there.
So what steps did you take to get past the Lindsay factor?
Didn't, sold it.
Oh, you just okay. It's all about me, and if it's not about me, I'm just going to sell it.
No, I didn't want it to be about me, but I couldn't get past that. I couldn't get past it. I mean, it's hard. And I tell people that all the time. So now I consult for companies, right? I mean, in a certain way, and it cannot be about yourself. We don't allow really companies or, founders to have their name on things. That was a big lesson that I learned, because in mine, it was going downhill, and because it was mine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I started my company, I did not want my name on the company at all.
Yep.
One, it feels like it's a little narcissistic, and it's also a little more small, rinky-dink, you'd think. I mean, although there are huge companies, the Richards Group here
Sure.
in Dallas,
Yep.
is huge with somebody's name on it. So it's not a, one size fits all, but I just didn't like the feel of it.
Yeah.
So I've never wanted to do that, but but none of your companies had your name on it, did they?
No, none of them did. And none of the companies before were about me. This one just became about me because it was very B2C. And so at that point, I'm dressing women, right? And it becomes about relationships.
I was going to say it's a relationship
Yep.
business. So you're the one that's making them look good, and if you're not there, then
Yep.
Somebody else can't do it.
Yep.
All right, we're going to take one last break. We'll be right back after this. All right, we are back with Lindsey Harrison of the It Crowd. Find him online at itcrowdmarketing.com. So you've sold your dress shop business.
Yep.
And so is this when the It Crowd starts?
This is when the It Crowd starts.
Finally.
Yes, we're here. We have arrived.
So what was it about the It Crowd? First of all, tell us what the It Crowd is.
So we're a fractional marketing agency. So we'll go into companies and either take over the entirety of everything it is that they need, or there are a lot of companies that maybe they already have somebody that does their social media, or they have a website and they can contact that website company, but they don't have somebody to plug in those holes. So we'll go in and become permanent part-time fixtures within their companies.
And is this primarily digital marketing, or is it also traditional advertising type stuff?
Sure. So we work in 8 different sectors of marketing. So it's anything from anything online, any type of website development. We do traditional print marketing. We do all kinds of graphics. We do branding, lots of strategy. We have a business development side of things. So we will actually go to client trade shows as their company. So we're white labeled underneath them. We bring both parties to the table to hopefully help with the sale. So we'll do everything up to the sale, and then after the sale to follow up with it, which is a little different than most marketing agencies.
Yeah.
And then we have what we call the agency side of things. So we had a lot of clients that were looking into influencer marketing. So they'd ask us to go find those influencers for them. And now we have a lot of influencers that are asking us to be their agent and finding them businesses.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we work all over the place. Social media, I mean, again, 8 different sectors, and you can find that online. But
Yeah. So how did that start? Was it just because of the things that you saw that you needed in your businesses that you decided, or did you have some of those other people coming to you asking you to do this for them?
yeah, when the stores were done, this was November of 2014. Like I said, I did a lot of B2B marketing within the stores, even though it was a B2C market. I had 2 companies right away call me and say, please come help us. And we saw what it is that you've done with the stores. We've kind of followed you. Please help. And so that's when It Crowd started. And for the first year, it was just me. And I did anything and everything under the sun because I had owned, at that point, 5 other businesses. And I'd been blessed to be able to do what it is that I had done. And so I knew what it took to actually start the business, run the business, make it larger, and then sell the business. And so I think that there was a lot of credibility when it came to that.
Yeah.
And
did you start it off as the It Crowd, or was there
I
a
did.
different name?
No, it started out as the It Crowd.
And what was the genesis for that name?
We wanted to help companies find their It Crowd.
Okay.
Yep. So it became It Crowd Marketing.
And It Crowd being their ideal client?
Yep. Yeah. So you always have the In Crowd, but we didn't want to use In Crowd. In Crowd. So it's It Crowd.
And as this company today, it's more than just you, I assume.
It is. There's so many of us. There's so many of us. Yeah, so it started off just me. And then after the first year, I brought in somebody and she kind of helped me moonlight. She had a full-time job. And then after that second year, we kind of exploded. So we have, we doubled in size last year. We tripled in size the year before. And we're on track to triple again this year.
Congrats.
And yeah, so we're down in Deep Ellum and there's so many people that work with me now. I can't even count them, which is fun.
So who's your ideal client?
We are pretty much industry agnostic, but we don't work with restaurants, retail, or attorneys.
Well, no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You don't work with retail, and yet that's what your last company was.
Hated it. That's why I don't work with retail.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So consumer products is fine. Business to business is fine.
Yep.
As long as it's not attorneys.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So because we offer so many different services, most people are able to plug in what it is that they need. And we work in puzzle pieces. So a little bit different than most agencies is because we are that permanent part-time fixture, we do 12-month contracts. It's not, this is a project, let's do it, let's be done. It's, we are here to stay. And depending on how many puzzle pieces you choose, depends on what the monthly fee is. Mm-hmm. So we kind of, for less than what you pay usually a full-time person, you get an entire agency with those resources.
So the influencer marketing is an interesting place right now because there's so many people that are trying to become influencers online. And I see this within my own family, with friends. They're kind of trying to become influencers a bit. Yeah. I don't know if they're doing it the right way or not, because what do I know about that business? But so you have people that are wanting to hire influencers to get their products and services out there, and you're also having influencers that wanting you to help them.
Yep.
So help us understand a little bit more about that industry. What if somebody wants to become an influencer? What do they need to do?
Well, in the last 6 months, so before that, it was really kind of the wild, wild west. It was as fast as you could grow your audience, and there was all kinds of different things that you could do, manufacture those audiences. So maybe you have 10,000 followers, you even have 500,000 followers, but maybe 300,000 of those are fake.
Yeah.
And before, businesses as well as agencies and that sort of thing couldn't really see that. We couldn't tell. Now you can. So the wild, wild west is kind of dissipating, if you like. But yeah, I mean, having different content, there's tons of content that's out there, but how are you going to be different? What's going to make you different? And how are you going to portray that? Is that going to be podcasts? Is that going to be Instagram? Instagram is kind of one of the largest ones. You're seeing video do huge things too, right? So the YouTube movement is really big right now. And yeah, you find your platform, find why you're different, and start going after that audience.
Is it best for somebody to focus on a single platform, just YouTube, just Instagram, just whatever, or do they really need to be on all of them?
It's so easy to be on all of them. I think that most people look towards one specifically. So we actually took on, and we don't do this, but we took on somebody that wanted to be an influencer, and she wanted a podcast and had 0 people. When I say 0, maybe she had 200 because it was family and friends. And so we have used her as a test case of going, how do we get from 0 to mega influencer? And we did it actually through the podcast network. So we do podcasts, we do any type of YouTube, and then Instagram is her big thing.
And how long has she been a client now?
So she's just done her 12th episode.
So pretty early.
Yeah, so she's done 12 episodes. She's got quite a few thousand followers on Instagram, and yeah, we're getting kind of close to if Spotify or those different types of things kind of picks us up, as one of the big ones.
Wait a minute, now picks you up.
Yeah, so once you get so many reviews, then you get highlighted.
Oh, okay, highlighting it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because you can push it to Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio
Right,
and all the rest
right.
automatically.
Yep.
So, but yeah, to be featured,
Yep.
yeah, then that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, and with hers, what we've done is, again, kind of the B2B side of it. So we're getting other larger influencers to come onto her podcast. So she had The Bachelorette go on this last week. She had a big shout out from Bumble. It's a dating podcast. And so she had a big shout out from Bumble. And so she does a lot of shout outs, and then they kind of come back to her. She's still tiny, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of traction.
So, I mean, how do you get somebody like that's on The Bachelorette on a small podcast?
It's all about relationships. And so that is the biggest thing out of everything it is that I've done. I've been so blessed to be able to do the things that I've done. And the things that I've learned it's all about relationships. It's all about how you treat people, how you treat the people that work with you, the people that you serve, and everybody that you kind of come in contact with. It's important because you never know where it is that's going to lead you.
And so whenever you're working with a business who is trying to get more customers,
Sure.
and they want to use the influencer market to do that,
Mm-hmm.
that seems kind of risky in some ways.
Of course.
Because you never know what that person, that influencer, is going to be doing next or saying next, and you attach your brand to that.
Yeah.
So are there ways to minimize that risk?
Yeah, they're contracts. Right. So their contracts, and depending on how big of a brand you are and how much money it is that you're spending, or how tiny the influencer is, and if they're trying to get momentum, there's kind of a happy medium with all of it, and then there are contracts that are put in place.
Interesting. And so you act as the agent for the influencer or for the retailer,
Yep.
or retailer's not the business, I should say.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun market.
And I got to believe, I mean, there's no rule book for this, is there, right now? I mean, it's like you're figuring it out as you go.
Right. And so there aren't very many agencies that are doing it, but the ones that are doing it, they're a few years old now, and they're mega. So tapping into that is becoming kind of interesting. So it is one of our puzzle pieces that we work in, and we are growing that side of it, and we're doing relatively well, but we are not one of the big boys in any way, shape, or form when it comes to that specific
How do you
side.
decide which influencers you want to work with? Do you seek them out, or do you just have them, they approach you and then you evaluate them in some way?
Both. So we have an influencer side to our website of, if you're an influencer, send us your information and we'll get in contact with you. But then also on the business side, if they hire us to go find influencers, then we actively reach out to those people. And then it usually ends up some sort of relationship back.
Seems like it'd be easier on the business side to go find the influencers that are appropriate with all the hashtags and stuff versus trying to build an influencer.
Yep.
I don't know if that's
Yep,
true. It
it's
just
true.
kind of feels that way to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely the business world as of right now, unless you're a mega influencer. And at that point, you get to start playing ball a little bit. If you're a tiny influencer, you get no say in anything. You just take what it is that you're
Yeah, I
given.
mean, if you're that kid playing with toys on YouTube, you
Correct.
can do anything you want.
Anything you want.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
What that kid's doing, but
Yep.
it's kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
I've never watched one of his videos though.
But I know lots of people that do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm far beyond the kids playing with toys stage in my life, so
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So what's next?
So this is a lifestyle business for me. I do what I do for a higher power. And for me, this one won't be sold. I love this business. I get to see and I get to help people every single day. I get to see new things when it comes to different businesses, which is really fun because I get to strategize and see them grow, which changes people's lives. And the people that I work with, it changes their lives too.
That's so cool.
I learned a lot with it. So.
Well, Lindsay, thanks so much for being our guest today. I've really enjoyed it. For our listeners, please go to itcrowdmarketing.com to learn more, and go to thenextlevelshow.com for the show. We'll be back next week with another great guest.
Thanks for having me.
Tough.